Alrighty, so picking up where we left off from last week with the foam roller, now we're going to talk about lacrosse ball. So lacrosse ball, if you think about the idea of a mobility tool, so a foam roller is a nice wide piece of material that we can generally apply across a wide surface area. It helps to be, or it serves a purpose as a general tool that is good for basically anything. But its limitation is that when you have small muscles or you have small areas that you can't get it into, then it kind of has a limited utility. So introducing a lacrosse ball. So a lacrosse ball is basically the same thing as a foam roller. It's just a little bit more targeted in its the way that it interacts with your body. It is definitely more intense. It is something to delicately introduce yourself to because you can definitely go too far, too fast using these. But so what I thought we'd do is just jump into it and just kind of show you a couple of the most common ways that I use a lacrosse ball and how I see my patients using them. So where I'm actually going to start this week, instead of my spine and my shoulders and that stuff, is actually my feet. So you can do this standing, you can do this sitting. But where I see people really use these is with plantar fasciitis. So my runners, my tennis players, people who are jumping, people who are moving, my basketball players, really take a beating on their feet. Even my office workers, ladies who wear high heels, I mean, I'm sure you feel your plantar fascia from time to time. So an easy way to use a lacrosse ball, and again, you can use a lacrosse ball. If this is too intense for you, you can use a tennis ball, just a little softer. But it serves the same purpose. So the way to use these is just like we did the foam roller last week. We're just going to imagine we are rolling this ball across the length of the tissue that we're trying to influence. So our plantar fascia in this case, we're going from heel to the ball of your foot and the ball of your foot back to your heel. And you can just roll this around. You can go to the outside of your foot. You can go to the inside of your foot. You can get it up in that arch. You can add a little pressure and push down into the ball, coming back. You can add a little pressure, rolling back. And again, just easing yourself into this. I recommend if you're gonna do this with your feet, you do this on the floor. At least the first time you try it. If you're standing and you do this on the ball, it may be a little intense. So food for thought with that. But this is a great way to just loosen up our feet and get our arches moving and just helping to give a little TLC to an area that gets often overlooked. And again, you can move your toes around. You can extend your toes as you go over to just create a little more tension. You can flex your toes around the ball to maybe get a little bit deeper into that arch. And you can just, again, just roll this back and forth, finding those tight spots, maybe holding them for just a second, trying to loosen them up. And just, again, easing this through. So coming from our feet, I'm gonna go up into our calves. So same thing with our calves as we did with the foam roller. Just again, be careful here. This is something that can get very intense very fast, and I don't want you to hurt yourself. So just easily, just letting yourself feel what it feels like to target these tight areas in your calf. You want to just go nice, long pulls across these calf muscles. Just think long, full length strides across these muscles, back and forth. Again, going up the inside, going up the outside. This is a great job to get in your soleus. Your soleus is a muscle that runs underneath your calf muscles and actually gets a little bit tighter. And this is a great one to get right on the side of your leg, right between your calf and your shin bone. Just nice long strides. And again, from there, we're going to work ourselves up into our hips and our glutes. Once we kind of get through our hamstrings, again, you can target the areas you need to most, but where I see people really spend a lot of time with this is in glutes. And glutes and IT band is a really common one too. So the way that this works is imagine you're laying on your back and you take this and you just set it aside of you. And all you can do here is you can start with this and just roll your body weight a little bit into it and just move yourself back and forth through these tight muscles. And again, the more you roll into it, the heavier it's going to feel. And so again, just go slow and feel yourself just working through these tight areas. I guarantee anybody who tries this at home will feel the tightness that I'm talking about right at the top of your glutes, top of your hips, and up through this upper low back or lower low back area and upper glute hip range. So you can work through there. Same spot, you can do leg stuff. So instead of rolling your hips back and forth over, you can roll a hip out to the side, and you'll feel these muscles really light up when you do that. You can stretch the muscle to the other side by just moving your leg back and forth, opening up this clamshell, and closing this clamshell back forth. So again, just feeling that tension, giving yourself that love where you need it. Lacrosse balls are great for low back. Again, moderation here. You know that from our last video that the low back already curves upwards. So we don't want to make this curve more. We want to allow ourselves to keep ourselves relatively neutral in our hips. We don't want to be arching our low back a ton up here. We're just trying to maintain like a nice neutral posture. And you just take this ball and just lay on it. Again, you can start with it off to your side and then just slowly add a little pressure on it. And all you're doing here is just rolling it nice and slow up and back. Just seeing if there's any tight spots through your QLs or your low back erector muscles. And you're just adding a little pressure back and forth. The more you roll onto the ball, the more pressure it's gonna give you. So again, just using that as a rough guide. You shouldn't be feeling any pain here. Tight spots are okay, but if anything becomes too intense, it's just time to stop. So we did low back. Again, you can do the same principle in your upper back. Another really common place I see people do these are in your lats. So just like before, we're placing this underneath our shoulder or in whatever tight spot you feel it. And again, we're just using our body weight to add a little pressure. So I'm gonna put this here and now I'm just gonna roll over on top of it just a little bit. And all I'm gonna do here is start moving my arm around. And so you can apply a little bit of pressure with the ball, and then you can use your arm to help move those muscles across the ball. The other option is you can roll this ball back and forth across these muscles as much as you need to. You can go back and forth to the side, you can go up and down. So depending on where you need to spend some time, this is a great way to get into these smaller areas that you'll struggle to get into with the foam roller. Another really common one, and this is gonna be the last one we talk about, is your traps and your shoulders. So people who have headaches, a lot of times this is really helpful. Putting this ball right up underneath your trap, right at the base of your neck, and just rolling onto it and just giving you a little pressure. Again, just using your shoulder to raise it up and pulling it back down, using your head to look into it and then looking away and stretching these muscles out on both sides, adding a little pressure, taking it away. You can put it up top here and you can reach up over your head and you'll feel that pressure increase as the weight of your shoulder increases on this. So using this, it's more, it's not so much how you're using it on your body, it's the principle of how you're using it. And so for me, I just want to get the point across of this is a more targeted, specific way to do some soft tissue mobility work at home compared to a foam roller. And you can use this to get a little bit deeper. So again, the big things here are just be careful with the amount of pressure you're putting on the ball. It's not, the goal here is not to injure yourself and cause pain. It's to help loosen tight areas up that may be needing a little bit of TLC that you are just not quite getting on your own. So yeah, this is Mobility Monday. And my challenge and goal for you this week is if you're somebody who may have done the foam roller last week, but you maybe didn't get into those tight areas because it was just a little too tiny, give this a try this week. So with that being said, I'll see you next week for another Mobility Monday.